And it looks like we will not be seeing any PlayStation 5s until well into 2022, according to Sony.
It looks like we might not even be seeing some Switches for a bulk of this coming year due to the same reasons.
And it looks like people also really don't like getting spied on. Apple apps.
And of course, who is entering the smartphone market now? Find all of that and more on the Tech Summit Podcast, episode 49.
I am Francisco.
I'm Chris.
And if you are watching on YouTube, then do make sure to check out the social media that is going to be right down here.
And if you are listening in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, all of that information will be in the respective descriptions.
That's right. But before anything, of course, we do have to give our patrons a very special thank you. So I would actually like to give a shout out to the tier 5s and the tier 2s and the tier 3s. So like the $5 tiers and the $10 tiers over here. So for the $10 tiers primarily, so thank you so much to Saad Al-Wazel and also to Omar. Thank you so much for supporting us to that extent. And we do very much hope that you enjoy your memberships over here. And for the $5 tiers or the tier 2s, we've got Armani, Rix Rocks, Dizzy YTT, Maury, C, and Luke. Thank you so much for all of your support once more. And just so you all know, you've all already been automatically entered to this month's giveaway for the month of May for the Stream Deck Mini over here. So we will be announcing the winner sometime around the end of May. And then once we do, we will be sending this product out to you, reaching out to you immediately after.
And of course, if you are interested in being entered for the giveaway for the Stream Deck Mini, please go to the Patreon. Tiers 2 and 3 get entered every single month for the Stream Deck Mini giveaway and other giveaways in the future.
Yes, and also we have a goal of once we reach 50 patrons, you guys can pretty much be guaranteed that we're going to be doing these giveaways weekly, which means that more of you will be able to win more often as well, which I think is going to be pretty cool. And the value of the products will not be dropping whatsoever. So like we're still going to be giving away some pretty cool products along the way.
And lastly, of course, if you subscribe to the Patreon, you also get access to bonus uncensored episodes of this podcast where we say bad words and talk about whatever we want.
Indeed. Well, within reason, but whatever we want.
Whatever we want. You know, lists of top favorite games, experiences, things that are going on in life, things we've been playing, whatever it may be.
Yes, and, I guess that you'll just get to know us to a bit more of a personal level, sort of, to an extent.
Yes, to an extent, of course.
Of course.
But let's jump right into the podcast, and let's talk off with a very brief stock scoop. So, as we spoke about last week, a certain Musk did, in fact, host Saturday Night Live, and a lot of people were watching it specifically to see if Dogecoin would rise with his involvement, and it did not. I did not watch it because I have better things to do than to watch broadcast television, but...
and that's a given.
But it did seem like apparently every single time he did something kind of cringy, the stock or the value of Dogecoin dropped significantly. And so it just kept tumbling down and down and down, and then just slid over the past week before finally starting to recover itself a little bit on Friday. So yeah, it's not
funny to think that Elon Musk is controlling the value of Dogecoin right now.
Multiple stocks. You know, there was that one time where he like didn't mention GameStop by name, but he sort of like did a to the moon kind of like meme thing, and everyone was like, and then GameStop kind of blew up a little bit more at that point. So it's kind of weird that this guy, this billionaire, is just kind of memeing stocks into existence and prominence. It's kind of scary, actually.
He's I guess you could say that he's kind of making a part of like mainstream culture, I guess, like because like so many people are now like literally invested into these. So like so many people are just like getting into it. Even people that probably would have never even thought that it was something that they'd be able to, I guess.
Elon is just a weird character. He's kind of like the I'm not like other girls of billionaires.
Except he doesn't like outright say it, but
he's the alternative billionaire. He's the hip, cool one. He's the one who listens to Evanescence in his bedroom, saying it's not a phase.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I used to be at that stage once.
I just keep dunking on Elon.
And it's true. It's not a phase. It stays with you forever.
Yeah, I was say he donned a Wario costume, wasn't it? They had like a Super Mario in court kind of skit, but it's
Wait, it was him wearing the costume?
the Wario costume. That was Elon.
That was Elon Musk?
Yeah.
I thought it was someone else completely.
No,
that
it's
did not look like Elon.
Elon as Wario.
Okay, yeah.
Now, again, I haven't seen that bit a little bit because, again, I have better things to do with my time.
I'm starting to think that he just wanted Dogecoin to plummet that night.
I was saying, because apparently that was a really, really bad, unfunny skit. Like, looking at pieces of the skit, it looks like one of those, like, early 2010s kind of BuzzFeed cracked college humor. Like, it's these family-friendly characters swearing. Ooh, and that's the humor, and I don't know, it just sounds very unfunny.
Yeah.
To be doing that 10 years later.
It is very much like primitive YouTube.
Exactly. And even back then, it wasn't very funny, unless you were like 12.
Which we all were 12, even my parents.
A little bit.
Well, no, but yeah, like a lot of us were just young enough to find that kind of thing funny.
So yeah, Dogecoin took a pretty big hit. One stock that did not take a hit, for a little while at least, AMC. Of all things. AMC started rising up a decent bit. I'm actually going to break open the app for this one. But it was sailing pretty high up for a good chunk of this past week. Like, actually, a decent bit. The current value is at $12.80.
Not bad, actually.
Not bad at all, absolutely. People who are holding on to AMC, they're doing a pretty good job right now. Yesterday was the weird one, though, because it sailed up and up and up to the point where it was reaching over $14 before gradually dropping back down to where, as you can see here, it only ended up having like a 3-cent increase.
Oh my gosh.
Just a 3-cent increase.
That draft makes me sad to look at.
It really is sad. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm just like, whoa. And I'm actually I was thinking about selling AMC at that point because I figured it's going to go down. So I may as well like sell it when it goes down, reinvest again, and just do that thing that people have been doing with GameStop. I'm like, let me just do that with AMC. It seems like the smart idea. And
like, just paper hands it.
I'm just like, nah, let me see what happens. And then, yeah. I mean, again, it didn't lose any money. But
okay, that's fair.
In the end, that return for that day for me was only $1.35. So it's
like in total?
Yeah. For that particular day at least.
Oh man. I mean I'm assuming that you have more than one stock.
I have 45 in AMC.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
But it's not too bad. I mean, I'm very much profiting right now.
Yeah, clearly. That's still pretty insane.
Of course, again, end of the month for all of these things.
Yeah. And I think that AMC, I mean, like, it appears that it is going to be like kind of a pretty safe long-term way of going about it.
Yes. And lastly, Disney took a pretty bad hit this week because I believe they put out their quarterly report. And it showed that Disney Plus was sort of slowing down in overall like engagement and subscribers. So because
Disney Plus, I'm assuming,
right?
Disney
Plus, yeah. So because it was slowing down, Disney in after hour it was after the bell had rung and like they were closed for the day. Disney dropped $7 on their share price.
Wow, from how much?
I think they were around usually about 140.
So well, that is actually kind of significant.
It's a pretty significant drop.
Yeah.
It was a pretty significant drop, especially after hours. And it's like just because they were like, oh, we didn't get that many subscribers.
I thought Disney was worth more.
You'd be surprised.
Oh,
you'd be surprised. Disney did take a pretty big hit last year when the parks closed for undiscernible reasons.
Right, or the coof if you really need a detailed explanation of what went down. But yeah, like a lot of stuff happened last year, and we're still recovering from it. However, I'm pretty sure that's everything for the stock scoop.
More or less,
right?
yeah. That is going to conclude the stock scoop. But of course, someone else's stock might take a little bit of a hit recently too. Tell us about it.
Now, on to more bad news. The Tech Summit Bad Podcast, or the Bad News Podcast, perhaps? Yes. Yeah, I mean, it does still have to do with that. And I'm actually going to bring up a little... man, I feel like NVIDIA always gets like dragged into this somehow, some way, but there is something regarding NVIDIA that I came across recently as well that has been talked about a lot recently that I forgot to mention before we started recording. But essentially, according to Sony, even though you guys might remember that last week we actually talked about how how Sony is going to work on redesigning the PlayStation 5 so that instead of it being a 7 nanometer chip, it would be, die. It would end up going down to 6 nanometers, which should help when it comes to securing more stock for PlayStation 5s. Like, it should allow them to make more PlayStation 5s, at least if they shrink the die size. Well, shortly after saying that, or after at least us coming across that bit of news, it seems like Sony has confirmed that until 2022, we are very well into 2022, we're probably not going to be seeing much stock whatsoever of the PlayStation 5, and that's really, really going to suck for people, for instance, that wanted to play the PlayStation 5 exclusives, such as Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, for instance, which for some reason isn't coming to PlayStation 4.
I like that. That's the first one you mentioned.
Yeah.
I was over here thinking like Returnal or Ratchet and Clank.
Well, that too, I guess. But yeah.
Or of course, Horizon.
Yes.
Which is going to be like a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Although it is cross-gen, so.
Yeah, and then we'll eventually come to PC as well. I mean, definitely considering that Zero Dawn made it in. I mean, come on. Like, there's no way that they're going to leave us hanging that way.
It's going to be a couple of years, though. It's going to be like a while before that comes to PC, if it ever does.
Probably. I mean, like, we're still waiting on Atlas to be like, hey, guys, Persona 5 on PC, but they're probably not going to tell us until super last minute anyway.
I just remembered a piece of news that's going to be on the bonus episode. Remember, guys, subscribe to the Patreon for bonus episodes.
Indeed.
So you can hear what this random news is that's kind of tangentially related to what he just said. What could it be?
Exactly.
Just pretend that's a question sound.
It's
a question sound.
Yeah, it's a sound that a question mark would make if it had a sound. So yeah, unfortunately, PlayStation 5s, we're not going to be seeing much stock of that, and things are getting worse. Not only for Sony in this regard, because I believe that you also mentioned that Microsoft is struggling with this.
Well, I mean, when it comes to semiconductor stuff, Microsoft is also going to be struggling, of course. It's not being reported on as much just because, everyone's paying attention to Sony, everyone wants a PS5.
Yeah.
Xbox is not too big of a deal. But the one who actually came out and mentioned something specifically about semiconductors as well is Nintendo, actually.
Go on.
You were close. So, I'm going to cite my sources on this one. Game of Sutra.
Uh-huh.
Game of Sutra. So, Nintendo Switch production more uncertain due to semiconductor shortage. Nintendo President Shutaro Furukawa almost messed it up.
Do you want to try it again, or
No.
Okay.
Shutaro Furukawa
No problem.
has
Okay.
warned
Good.
that Switch production may be affected by the ongoing semiconductor shortage. Speaking during a recent financial Q&A, Furukawa explained that while demand for Switch hardware continues to exceed Nintendo's expectations, somehow, I'm going to talk about that in a moment,
Yeah.
production is still playing catch-up due to tight supply and demand for semiconductor materials worldwide. Although we are currently striving to produce as many units as possible, the fact is that our production plans are more uncertain than they were in the beginning of previous fiscal years, said Furukawa.
Yeah.
Our full sales plan is based on the premise that we can secure the materials necessary for production, and if we are able to produce more units, we will work hard to meet the strong demand and to be able to ship and sell those units. That's more or less, I'm guessing, what Sony is also kind of saying when they mentioned that they're going to be waiting until like the middle of next year before they see increasing stock.
Yeah.
So, as mentioned in the past, the semiconductor shortages that have also been affecting GPUs in general, and a lot of other industries as well. Cars are also being affected by this. Cars, other technology pieces. This is not going to be getting any better.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing the effects of these last uncertain events really play out over the course of this year in a lot of different industries, and especially tech.
Yeah. This is going to be a very big deal for a lot of different industries within the tech realm. The automotive industry is being affected pretty hard by this as well, as we have discussed in the past. But, what's a little bit more relevant to us in this case would be graphics cards and consoles and things like that. Unfortunately, there is really not much going around it at the moment. And it is, sure, like in part due to, bots and them like being able to buy out so much supply, which, by the way, recently I actually came across a picture of this one guy, or a group of people at least, that work together, that were just hoarding a bunch of different RTX cards.
Oh.
Yeah, and they actually sold the entire batch for thousands of dollars. I think almost 100K, probably actually more so like $70,000 on eBay.
Oh.
Yeah. So
and these are all legitimate people who actually bought these cards, not like fake auctions, fake bids, or anything like that.
yes,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, like somebody actually paid for this, and that was just insane. That it's just one batch being passed over to another guy so that he could probably scalp that as well, or maybe like just make his own like farm for like mining Ethereum, since Ethereum is actually pretty valuable right now. But it is just pretty insane, like how people can do that. People were so pissed to see that because technically those were graphics cards that hadn't even been released. I don't remember the exact model of them, but they were RTX cards for sure. And people were livid about that because it's like, okay, so one guy can buy over 20 graphics cards just like that, no problem. And then you have like a bunch of people, like potentially 20, 40 people who could have had gaming cards.
Yeah. In some ways, I kind of reached this level where I'm starting to almost kind of respect the hustle of sorts. Because in the end, what they're basically doing is running a business. Now, granted, it's a crappy business.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Yeah.
And it really affects a lot of people, and it's kind of scummy. But in the end, it is a hustle, I suppose. They're running a business. There is not a lot of supply. There's a lot of demand, and they're taking advantage of that. It's like I mentioned before, I do want to look into like the history of scalping, and of course, the tiny little bit of research that I have done on the history of scalping does show that this stuff really came into prominence and really started out with tickets.
Tickets.
Yes, ticket scalping.
Oh yeah.
Of course, makes
Yeah,
sense.
well, makes
You
sense.
want to go to this sporting event or this concert.
Mm-hmm.
They buy all the tickets off like Ticketmaster or whatever, and
Yeah.
then they start scalping it on somewhere like StubHub. Well, obviously, in person, back in the day before the internet, it would be like they buy all the tickets at the ticket gate, and then like when you show up to the place, they're just hawking tickets over there, being like, "Oh, sold out show! I got tickets right here for like $120." And
Yeah, you can buy it right now, same day shipping.
yeah, it's like I know you're not too much of a sports guy, but you still have that kind of nowadays where you'll have like you get like say for example, I am a Mets fan.
Yeah.
God help me.
Yeah.
I am a Mets fan, and when you get out of the train station to go to the stadium, you'll always have people there that are like advertising tickets. I got tickets right over here, and they claim it's a discount.
Mm-hmm.
Not always necessarily a discount.
I mean, it might just be like a discount from other scalpers, maybe.
It could be a discount from other scalpers, or it could be a discount, or it could be like they buy the tickets in bulk.
Yeah.
And that, or in some cases, maybe they may even have a season ticket, which gives them access to a whole bunch of tickets. They get those tickets for very cheap, and then they just sell them to get their money back on the season ticket. And of course, right next to them, you have that person who's like selling like bootleg T-shirts or hats. Like get a hat, $10, which is like super cheap, especially when you consider that if you go to the team store, the hat there could be like $25, $30.
Yeah.
For the official ones.
Yeah, like which isn't bad at all, actually.
It's a hustle.
Yeah.
It is a hustle. Again, it's a little scummy in some, especially now when you're talking about graphics cards, which people need those things to. And I'm always going to focus on this one in particular. In some cases, work. Like
Yeah.
you and I.
I mean, it is true. Yeah, like a lot of people do need these for a variety of reasons. Some people work in
work.
game at the same time.
And of course, we're talking about graphics cards. We also have to remember CPUs are also being scalped.
Yeah,
Which
CPUs
is
and
especially important for actual work. Like,
Mhm.
even, like with graphics cards, you can argue if someone needs it to work or not. It depends on what it is. Like if they're doing
yeah,
videos,
but they can get a GT 1010, right?
CPU, you need that for your computer to function no matter what. Whether you're
Yes.
doing spreadsheets, whether you're doing video editing, you need a CPU.
You do.
And they're all getting scalped.
Yeah, though GPUs aren't always optional.
Mhm.
Like even for people who are just doing office work, for instance, GPUs might not always be optional because again, like it depends on whether or not your CPU does have integrated graphics.
Mhm.
Which Intel was brave enough, courage, like they had the courage, to say, we're not going to have integrated graphics for the 8th gen CPUs, and I think they did the same for the 9th gen CPUs. Do correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, of course. But they did eventually end up bringing it back, if I'm not wrong, with the 10th and the 11th generations of CPUs. Again, I could totally be wrong about that. But AMD also did the same. Like I remember Ryzen 1 did not have integrated graphics. I think Ryzen 2 was also the same case, but I think that they did bring it back with Ryzen 3, and I'm not entirely sure. But like my point is that it's not really always optional. Like if you want to save money on the CPU, and maybe get like one of the older Ryzen 1s instead, because like Ryzen 1 is still very good. You're going to need a graphics card with that, whether it's a 750 Ti, something to go along with it. But some of these aren't even equipped to really work with Windows 10 anymore, or in 2021.
Right.
So some of these graphics cards would have become obsolete, which is when you would want to get a GT 1010,
Of course.
which is the best graphics card of 2021.
Right.
I want to hear no argument about it.
I ain't gonna argue it.
Good.
I'm not gonna argue it. And of course, we're talking about work, and then there's the other thing, of course, recreation. A lot of people want these GPUs so they can game, and I know it comes off a little bit more first world problem-y, but in some cases, these people, a lot of people out there, they're working, they're tired, or just over the past year, their mental health has just been taking a hit after hit, and it's like you want to be able to go home or just relax and just play a game.
Yeah.
Just relax and play a game.
And normally, like I would say, oh well, if you just want to play a game, get a console. But even that's too difficult to do.
That's where we transition back to it.
Yeah.
You can't get a PS5 or in many cases now a Switch. And of course, there's Xbox too. But again, a lot of people aren't talking about the Xbox very much, just because
exclusives at the moment just aren't really there.
Not just that, but a lot of people will just pay attention more to the PS5 because PlayStation is a household name. Obviously, they're all household names at this point, but like a PlayStation does feel like a big essential, or like the essential like console if you have to make one essential, quote unquote.
Honestly, though, like I'm pretty tempted to even say like wait until Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 come out, and then like the Xbox is probably going to be dominating for a bit, like assuming that those games are good.
Because if it wasn't clear enough, they made it clear that Starfield is going to be an Xbox exclusive.
Same thing with Elder Scrolls as well.
Well, they didn't mention Elder Scrolls yet because, of course, Starfield's going to be coming first, and it really does seem like Starfield might actually be releasing this year, or at least relatively close to this year.
Yeah, which it's like finally, because like when Elder Scrolls 6 got like officially announced, they were pretty much like like this is just like a little 3D render of mountains going across.
It really was just a listen. We're not, because remember they were showing off like the mobile game.
Yeah,
and so they were like, just because they don't want people to panic, it's like, all right, relax. We're not leaving. The main console market. There is another Elder Scrolls being worked on, so please shut up.
They learned a lot from Blizzard's presentation when they were like, guys, so, okay, I know you all wanted a brand new Diablo game. Exactly. So here it is.
And it's a mobile game, and then they don't even announce anything about Diablo 4. And so they're like, all right, let's just jump ahead of this. They also took it a little bit from Nintendo, too. Remember, many years ago, Nintendo was showing off some mobile games that they were working on and stuff like that. And Nintendo was like, we are making a new console, NX.
And then,
of course, everyone focuses on the NX more than anything else. And that's just kind of the thing. It's like you want to announce these things just so people don't get mad or think that you're leaving consoles and PC behind just for mobile.
Yeah, like don't just respond condescendingly saying, "Hey, you don't want to guys have phones."
It's like you don't want to leave people behind with that. So and of course you end up announcing that you're working on this thing. But then it runs into the problem that, of course, everyone's going to talk about exclusively about that. And they're going to be like, it's been 2 years. Why aren't they talking about it yet? It's because it's not even close to ready, but they have to say it just so that way you don't start panicking. It's like the media kind of causes this problem on their own here.
I do think that periodic updates should be a thing, though. Sure, like give us one update once a year, like when it comes to games that are expected to take years upon years to develop.
But in the case of Bethesda, they don't do that. Bethesda is the kind of studio that they usually only really announce a game when it's like coming out within a couple of months. Like with Fallout 4, they didn't say anything about Fallout 4. Then they announced Fallout 4, and they're like, it's coming in 6 months.
And then
Now and that
Fallout
was it.
76 also.
Like
It was-
I guarantee you, Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, if it wasn't for the mobile thing and they wanted to just put that out there just to make sure people don't panic or anything like that,
Mhm.
I guarantee you we wouldn't have even known that Starfield existed until they announced it and be like, it's coming out this holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, like the Elder Scrolls as a franchise could have just officially been concluded with Skyrim and not known anything until they said Elder Scrolls 6 comes out next month. Are you guys ready?
That's exactly how they do it. That's how they do these things. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they had to get ahead of this stuff. But of course, the question is, will people be able to play these games because we don't have the consoles?
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. But in any case, these shortages are a huge problem. And of course, even before Starfield and Elder Scrolls for Xbox, with PlayStation, you have Horizon, you have God of War, you have Ratchet and Clank coming out next month.
Yeah.
You have Returnal, who came out last month.
Yeah.
So it's like you have all of these titles that people aren't actually going to be able to play just because they don't have access to a PS5. Horizon, if I recall correctly, is going to be coming out on the PS4 as well. So that one gets a bit of a pass. But
Yeah. I guess I would do kind of run into this issue that, I mean, like, I don't really know if you also feel like it is, kind of a problem as well. And that's that, like, while it is good to make, like, a lot of these games cross-platform as well, like, to make sure that everybody can play it, or at least that as many people as possible can play them. You also want to reward the people that did go out of their way to get a next-gen console, or a current-gen console, now I should say. So it's like, what's the right thing to do in this scenario? Should you really be making exclusives for these consoles so that everybody, to reward people who did get those consoles as you should, or should you do as you also should, and make these cross-platform so that other people can also play them right now, considering the current circumstances,
So in the case of Horizon, I fully believe that development on that game started years ago, and it was a PS4 game, and then they started getting dev kits for PS5, and they're like, okay, let's make it for both. Like, I can fully believe that that's what they were doing. I have no beliefs whatsoever that God of War is going to be a cross-gen game. It's not. God of War is going to be PS5 exclusive straight up.
Yeah. I mean, that game was already pretty demanding on a current PlayStation 4. So.
Exactly. So the issue. So it's not. I don't think the issue is that they're trying to cater and make sure everybody can play it. More than it's just a matter of, like, games that are cross-gen like that are games that were already being developed for PS4 and then are going to be coming to PS5 as well.
I mean, I'm mostly asking, like, what would be the right thing to do in this scenario?
Well, I mean, you can't have like you can't have like developers who are working on PS5 titles then suddenly start trying to make a PS4 version. You can't do that.
Yeah,
a lot of them are too deep into development to just suddenly go back. Like, you're not going to tell Insomniac, okay, so you're a month away from Ratchet and Clank, but nobody has a PS5, so just can you like quickly slap together a PS4 version? You can't do that, especially because one of the big gimmicks of Ratchet and Clank is the fast SSD loading times.
Yeah,
like you can't suddenly go backwards on that.
I actually watched like a bit of gameplay from it, and like the game does look pretty good.
It looks really good, and like, to be able to just load up entire new environments within seconds, it's insane.
And does it support ray tracing by any chance? Do you know?
I'm not so sure on that.
Okay.
I know. All I know is with Ratchet and Clank, the big gimmick really is to show off the SSD and the loading times.
Okay. I mean, the SSD is very important.
It is, but what's it called? The thing that I was thinking about when it comes to cross-gen games is that when you make a game that has to be supported on both consoles, you end up having to make sacrifices in terms of visual fidelity. Like, I'm thinking back to the days with PS3 and PS4 games. The big one I'm thinking of is Battlefield 4.
Battlefield 4, huh?
Battlefield, and I know that's obviously not your kind of game, but Battlefield 4 had to make a lot of like compromises and stuff like that in order to run not just on the PS4 but on the PS3. And while the PS4, of course, had additional things too, like obviously the big thing with Battlefield has always been destructible environments, and the big showing off moment for them was the Siege of Shanghai, where the entire skyscraper collapses. And on PS4 and PC, it looks really good. Like it shows off a lot of detail and stuff like that. Whereas with PS3, they have to make sacrifices with the quality just to make sure that it can run properly. And it's like you have to sit there and think, well, if they were only making it for PS4, if they were only working on the PS4 version, how much better could it have looked? Could it have looked even better? And you didn't really get to see what DICE was able to do on just PC and PS4 hardware until Battlefield 1, the World War 1 title, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Yeah.
So it's like when you have to make a game for both generations, you have to make sure that it runs on PS3. You might have to hamper what you can really push the next gen hardware to do. And that's going to be kind of the case here. Like I can fully believe that Horizon will be a beautiful game, but it might not be as beautiful as it could have been just because they also have to make sure that it runs on PS4.
Yeah. And like it might have to probably have like those graphical improvements over time with patches and things like that. So like it could very much take a while.
There are also exceptions like Persona. Persona was always being made as a PS3 title, and when they realized that they were taking so long to make it, they're like, we should probably put it on a PS4 as well.
Persona is a very special case though, because like Persona just isn't very graphically intensive.
It's mostly about the style.
Yeah, like it's just a very stylized game, and like when you look at the models, they do look very easily like PlayStation 3 models. When you look at the 3D animations,
you can look at it, you could tell that this was originally made on a PS3.
Yeah,
and it's just that they took so long to make it that the PS4 had been out for like a good couple of years by the time it released, and it's like it wouldn't have made sense to release a PS3 exclusive in 2017.
Yeah, and honestly, dude, like I'd even be willing to argue that like about Persona 3 and 4 because like both of those games, sure, they honestly look like somewhere in between, like maybe like an early PlayStation 2 game, I would say, versus like a late PlayStation 2 game. And I think that Persona 4 was like a very late PlayStation 4 game.
It was like 2008, right? So like the PS3 had already been out for a year.
Jesus Christ. I mean, like that's 4, not Golden though.
No, not Golden.
Yeah. I think that Golden first released on the Vita like in
2013. 2012, 2013.
I think it was like 2012 actually.
2012 sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it may have been like earlier on that cycle as well. And oh my gosh, yeah, like I do tend to forget that the Vita came out in 2012. The 3DS was the one that came out in 2011.
Yes.
I keep forgetting that. Like I keep like switching both of those around. But yeah. So yeah, like a lot of things to keep into account. Like it's just unfortunately not possible for a lot of developers to make versions for both. And it's not that they don't want to, it's that they probably can't.
In some cases, you just can't get the game running on older hardware. Older hardware.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. There was one specific game that I'm racking my head on that they were trying to make a version for last gen consoles, and they ended up canceling it just because it wasn't running at a reasonable, like,
frame rate.
In general, yeah.
Okay.
Like it was not playable at a state that was worth. I'm trying to remember which.
Cyberpunk.
Clearly not. Clearly not Cyberpunk. They should have. They probably should have. But of course, you can't really do that because you promised there was going to be a PS4 and Xbox One title several years ago, so you kind of have to put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
So they were in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I'm trying to remember what.
Yeah, I also think that they were just like trying to like make everyone happy, and when you try to make everyone happy, you end up making no one happy, and that's exactly what happened with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's just kind of the thing. I'm racking my head now. I'm trying to remember what game it was. Like, jeez,
it's on the tip of your tongue. I know you got this.
I don't even know if it's on the tip of my tongue. You know what it is too? I'm trying to remember if the game even came out yet. It actually might have been an unreleased title.
I wonder what game it is now.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So while he's racking his head over this,
you could also have the alternative, the opposite effect, where a game will come out on really old hardware several years after it was no longer useful. Like, so do you know Retro City Rampage?
Sounds familiar.
It's like that sort of 8-bit sort of game that like looks around like Back to the Future and very 80s-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out on every single system ever.
Yeah.
The same developer made a game called Shakedown Hawaii. which is again kind of like 80s ish.
Mm-hmm.
And this game came out, Shakedown Hawaii. I believe it came out either 2019 or last year. And the guy decided in 2019/2020, one of the 2 years, I'm trying to remember which one, he decided, I'm going to put this game out on the Wii. He released the game on the Wii. But I believe he was only able to do it in Europe.
Oh, Jesus.
I think he was only able to do it in Europe physically because the Nintendo Wii shop is closed. So it's like the only way you can really sell it is a physical copy. And Nintendo of America no longer has the tools to like actually get the game registered and sold here in North America. So it came out exclusively in Europe for the Wii. And I believe he also put it on the PS3 shop. The PS3
why?
So it's like
Why did he do that?
I think it was also on the 3DS, and it's like,
Oh, well, like the 3DS I get.
was still kind of alive, yeah.
Yeah, like the 3DS I can
It's on the
understand.
Vita,
I can understand the Vita too.
but the Wii,
The Wii
my God,
is weird because like the latest iteration of the Wii, like the actual Wii, specifically has no online
the
capabilities.
Wii Mini, right?
Yeah, or
right.
the Wii Lite or something like that. I'm not sure.
It was the Mini.
Okay,
it
Mini.
was like that little tiny box that had like a red trimming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you
Came with
got
Mario
it.
Kart.
Yeah, so like
No online, no GameCube backwards compatibility.
yeah. So how are you supposed to download that?
No. I mean, again, I don't think it was on the shop anyway because the shop was closed.
Mm-hmm.
They closed the Wii shop a while ago.
Fair. Yeah.
So all you really had was just physical copies that you could possibly get, and so
Either way,
it's just-
like I better be able to play with it with my nunchuck and the Wiimote.
it's just like
okay?
if you
motion
want,
controls.
it's just if you want the novelty of playing Shakedown Hawaii while living here in North America, you have to get a European Wii to then import a physical copy of the game. Because remember, the Wii is region locked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have to go through so many hoops just to be able to play this one game that came out several years after the Wii was discontinued. And it was also on the Wii U, of course. Goes without saying, if it's on the Wii, it's also on the Wii U. Obviously, can't. It's not gonna. He's not gonna go with the Wii and then skip over the Wii U.
Well, no, wow. I mean, like that would be quite the leap. Am I right? Why would he ever want to do that?
But I mean, let's be real here. At this current point in time, you have a better chance of getting a Wii U than you do of getting a Switch or a PS5. So,
That is the sad reality.
if you are in a market, the Wii U is sitting there for you. There we go.
Okay, I gotta give it to you. That was pretty good.
So something that Apple has been focusing a lot on over the last couple of years has been the privacy of the user. Rather surprisingly, especially due to the privacy concerns that we've been having in basically this past decade, after we found out things about spying and collecting data and ad personalization from Google, Facebook, all these other places. So Apple has really stepped up to the plate to really try to ensure us that privacy is a major concern, that you can rest assured that if you are an Apple user, you will have full disclosure and privacy and the ability to customize who sees what.
Yeah.
And it looks as though people are definitely using it. This is going to be from Engadget, and they are writing here, quoting verbatim here, Facebook's worries about iOS 14.5 may have been justified, as 14.5 in particular brought in a bunch of features, namely the ability to opt out of any sort of tracking and user data collection in certain apps.
Which is great.
Very great. And it looks like everyone agrees. Flurry Analytics, owned by Engadget's parent, Verizon Media,
96% of people agree.
they have determined that just 4% of American iPhone users are running the new software opted in Just 4% of American iPhone users running the new software opted into app tracking in the last.
In the last what? Okay. Tell us.
I'm not even going to quote this time. The statistics are showing that only 4% of American iPhone users are opting in for app tracking over the first 12 days that they introduced the service.
So you see companies, Apple, Google, Facebook. People don't like getting tracked like this.
Yes.
People don't like having like their data just looked into, eyeballed all of the time like this.
Yes. The opt-in rate climbs to 12% when you expand it to worldwide, but in the end, it's still only 12% that are opting in
Yeah.
to be tracked by various apps.
Yeah. Like that's not even like that's just 1/10 of the population.
And this is not an instance of like, well, they just tracked, they asked 100 people. No. 2.5 million daily active users in the US and 5.3 million worldwide were used in this study.
Yeah, like
So
this is just extracted
This
data from.
this is quite a huge sample size that suggests that when given the option if they want to be tracked or not through various apps, the overwhelming majority of people say no. And even then, like we were talking about before we started recording, I fully believe that the 4% in America that do opt in are opting in by accident.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of them, like, because, you know, they have all these pop-ups, you know, oh, we need to access your location for this service. We need to allow, you know, access to your photos for this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of cases, you'll just say allow. And that probably comes up. We need to do app tracking. Allow. They don't even realize that they just did that.
Yeah.
But I imagine a lot of them, if they were...
They just want to like
if
get
they
it
were-
over with and just like finally use that stupid app.
Like if they were told very specifically, do you want to be tracked by Facebook at any given moment? A lot of them would probably also would then turn around and say no.
Yeah. Hey, most likely. Because it doesn't sound appealing at all. Because it isn't.
No, it's like you should not have to worry about being tracked and having your data collected even when you're not using the app.
/sold, of course. Because I mean, what else would you need our data for? It is to be able to profit off of us.
Advertisement customization.
Yeah.
For a lot of people who hate advertisements to begin with.
Yeah. And now granted, like when it comes to Facebook, you are the product, for instance, which is why using Facebook is free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get served a bunch of advertisements and based on also like what things you look up, what things you do, they choose to show you advertisements based off of those things.
In some instances, depending on what you say in person.
Yes.
Like both of our phones are currently on. We could be talking about Facebook or about certain products or a particular product that we're going to be looking at in a moment. And and I'm sure one of our Google searches or one of our advertisements are probably going to be focusing in on this or that product or this or that service.
Yeah.
It happens. The past couple of months, obviously I've been using Robinhood and other investing apps quite a bit. And now on YouTube, this is also just a product of the changing times in general. I get a lot of advertisements for Webull, which is a Robinhood competitor.
Webull.
And they specifically mentioned, oh, you can buy, sell crypto. I am so sick and tired of that particular ad. Where it's the guy's like being interviewed by a news channel or something like that. And he's like, you could essentially buy, sell crypto on a daily basis. I'm like, shut up. Shut up.
I know you're pretty tired of hearing about like crypto and stuff, and it has kind of become a bit of
I hate advertisements in general. I'm very anti-advertisement. I'm very much ad blocker everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, that's just me, of course. That is just me.
But
I also recognize that in many cases, you do kind of need advertisements for certain things. You know, people need ad revenue to survive on YouTube, for example. I understand that.
yeah, like that's how the Tech Summit podcast operates, in
Exactly.
fact. And
I
and
do
also
understand
you
it.
patrons do help quite a bit with that.
It would
thank you.
actually be very nice if like the channel were somehow able to get enough patrons where you don't have to rely as much on ads.
I know.
It would be very nice.
Yeah, like even just like straight up demonetize these podcasts. Okay, no. I'm just
I'm not
talking
gonna-
crazy.
I'm not gonna
I'm
go that
talking
far,
crazy. Yeah.
I will say yes.
Definitely talking crazy.
Of course, I will say my opinions on advertisements do not reflect the overall opinions of Tech Summit. These are my personal opinions.
Yeah, they better be.
You know,
I have a
That's what
baseball
it is.
bat somewhere.
that's what it is. Just putting that. He just beats me with the Stream Deck Mini.
Yeah. You want to win the giveaway?
I'll give away a beating.
There you go. YouTube, please don't ban me.
But of course, personalized ads do come at. Yeah, sure. The ads are more personalized to you instead of just getting random ads that don't matter to you. Like, you know, someone gets an ad for like diabetes medication when they don't have that.
Or like a toaster phone, right? Who would ever want that?
Anyway.
I mean, that just sounds so weird.
Anyway. So it's like personalized ads do help to make the ads more personalized to your actual interests. And some people are like, oh, that seems rather nice and convenient, but it comes at the cost that your data is being collected and sold for that purpose by Facebook We're mentioning Facebook because Facebook is the one in particular who has been going very much against Apple's privacy things and the requirement they have for iOS 14.5.
Right.
But also Google. Google as well, very much
Massive offender.
extreme massive offender that takes the things that you search on Google and turns that into personalized search results, personalized ad results on like YouTube and Google itself.
Yeah.
Google services. Like all of that is through collecting your data, which is a huge privacy breach. So Apple coming forward and saying, we're going to allow the user to decide for themselves if the app actually collects that data or not. That is a huge deal. It's actually very positive. I'm running an Android right now after years of being like, I don't know about Android, and everyone telling me to use Android. But I'll be honest with you, things like that does actually make me consider going back to Apple.
Interesting. I mean, I wouldn't really blame you in that regard. I currently right here, I'm holding an iPhone 12, and I mean, it has been a pretty fantastic device so far. It's got one of the best cameras ever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on a smartphone, that is, of course. But yeah, like going the Apple route nowadays is much better than it used to be way back when, right? And that goes whether you're using iPad OS or just straight up iOS on your iPhone. So I think that there is a pretty strong case to be made in favor of going the Apple road. Like just considering how, for example, if you wanted to download an app such as Magic Tiles, right? Like let's just go ahead and talk about that. So this is an app that my nephew really wanted me to download because he likes to play games on my phone.
Okay.
So he downloads Magic Tiles, or like he clicks on the download button, and then it says, will you give permission to look at your messages, which you have to do. Like, it's not even optional. Look at your messages. Look at your call history. Be able to manage these things. Like, these are things that they should have no business having
this is
to
for
access.
a game.
For a game.
Like a match 3 type of game. Magic Tiles sounds like a match 3 type of thing, or like a Bejeweled sort of.
Well, Magic Tiles is... it's more like a rhythm game, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah, like it's a lot like, I guess, Rock Band Mobile or
Okay.
something like that. Like you would just like press.
Okay, so it's a rhythm game.
Yeah.
And they're asking for your call history and your messages?
Yeah. Things like that.
What happens if you say no?
They won't let you download it.
Like the game will just close itself?
The game's not going to close itself. Like the Play Store, it's just going to go back to download. It's not even, like, it's not asking for your permission. It's telling you, okay, we will let you play our game that's filled probably with malware and a ton of ads in between play sessions in exchange for your data. Like, how much do you really need to get...
For a rhythm game?
Yeah, for a rhythm game. Now, I have to say, one thing that very much upsets me is that with a lot of these things, you still have to pay some money up front before they continue to profit off of you, which is kind of ridiculous. For instance, like a phone. I thought about this recently. They use this to track our data, sell it, use it, and data is so incredibly valuable, especially user data in particular, that they would be willing to go through these extents to make sure that they can acquire it from you. So, if you're still going to make me the product, even after purchasing the phone, why not just make the phones free and make that like the buy-in? Like, say, this is how we're going to profit off of you. Because at the end of the day, they're going to end up making a lot more money off of what you do on your phone than what they will from your phone.
For certain companies, I totally imagine that. It does make me wonder, like Apple being super like tight when it comes to privacy concerns and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, Apple still has access to that data. What are they doing with it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like they still have it.
Like they still have that.
Yeah.
It's like, are they then maybe customizing your Safari search? Actually, no, Safari does not a search engine, but
it's a browser, and it does have like its own engine. I
but it's using
built in.
but it's using Google for the search engine, though, isn't it?
I don't know if that's the case by default. Actually, You might have to set it that way. I'm not entirely sure though.
Mhm.
Like you could be right, but yeah, like if you're going to make us the product, I think it's fair to say
I'm
something
certain.
like,
I am certain there's going to be a smartphone brand somewhere in the future that does like offer like completely free phones, but it's like you automatically get data collected all the time because like maybe Facebook is an automatic app. I know that was actually an issue before with Samsung phones where Facebook was built in and you couldn't delete the app off your phone.
that's insane.
So it's like even if you don't have a Facebook account, they're still collecting data off you.
Yeah,
And that's been an issue in general. Like even if you completely scrub Facebook away, or you never had a Facebook to begin with, if you're say texting with somebody who does have a Facebook, Facebook will then go into their messages, collect the data from that stuff, and they'll make like a shadow profile based on you and your responses
yeah.
and your interests. And it's like, where does it end? Where does it end?
It doesn't. No, it's not ending yet. But yeah, like it really doesn't. It's just it's ridiculous. And like going back to Facebook in that regard, the Oculus Quest 2. I have still like to this day on my review of the Oculus Quest 2, my comparison video of the Oculus Quest 2 versus the Oculus Rift S. People still say that the biggest downfall, like the deal breaker for them, or the thing that they like the least about the Oculus Quest 2 is the fact that you need a Facebook account in order to be able to use it.
Strongly agree.
Yes. And while I understand that this is a very impressive piece of tech that I'm sure that they're probably barely just breaking even on when they make and sell it to you as it is, after that, like they're going to be profiting off of your data.
They should. That's the thing. They don't necessarily have, in the case of the Quest 2, specifically the Quest 2, there is no reason to necessarily collect. You're saying that they're breaking even because, yeah, it is a pretty.
I'm assuming. I'm
it's
assuming
an impressive
that
piece of tech for only $250. Yes, that's impressive. Maybe they're breaking even on that. But most people who buy that, they buy that specific device because they don't want to connect it to a computer, correct?
Yeah.
Which means, how do they buy their games? Through the Quest store. They
Yes.
buy it through the Oculus store, which you know for a fact Facebook is taking a cut out of every single sale there. Probably a pretty decent cut, the same way Apple takes huge cuts from App Store sales.
Yeah.
So there is no excuse to say that Facebook is not somehow making money off the Quest 2. Even if you're breaking even on the device, you're still getting a cut from those things. That's like saying PlayStation should be collecting data from people just because they break even on the PlayStation systems. No, they still get a huge cut from game sales off the PSN store, even if it's not their specific titles.
Yeah, exactly. And that is fair. I think that is understandable. Okay, like I'm going to buy a game on your store, that's fine, right? Like you should be able to profit from that if you can't profit necessarily from the hardware itself. However, when it comes to, let's say, Facebook's case, just profit off of the games that you already forced us to buy, right? Because, well, you're not forcing us to buy games per se,
But for most people,
but if you get an Oculus, you're going to buy games, right?
For most and for most people, they're not going to. If it's a Quest 2, they're not going to be connecting it to a computer to access their Steam library.
Well, nowadays
bought
they
it.
would. Well, nowadays they would, but like,
Some might, but most people buy a Quest 2 because they don't want to have those wires.
yeah,
So they're going to be. So for a lot of people who buy that, they're going to be buying specifically off the Quest store. It's like, why should I connect my computer so I can play Superhot off Steam when I can buy Superhot from the Oculus store directly, which Facebook takes a cut. And of course, they're going to be encouraging that.
which Rift S is currently discontinued, so you only have the option of the Quest 2, even if you do want to play PSVR games in the most affordable way, that is, because like you do still have other methods of playing VR games, but you have to pay more for those methods, like the HTC Vive, $600, right? The HP Reverb, I think, is around $600 as well.
Facebook is taking advantage of people who are buying that specific device because of the price and convenience.
Yeah,
A lot of people who are buying those devices might not be more in the know of things. They might just see, oh my God, it's a VR device that's affordable and doesn't have wires. I'm in. They don't necessarily realize or care about the Facebook privacy concerns or anything like that.
yeah,
So seeing Facebook squirming, and you know what's the other thing that also really gets me about, I know this is turning into like a Facebook rant more than just Apple doing their thing and 4%. But because the thing is, Facebook is at the center of this.
yeah,
Like Facebook was the one that was worried about this, and this is what gets me. Facebook doing all these privacy, they clearly want to collect data off of you
yeah,
for nefarious means. And when they were talking about when they were scared about Apple's new requirements, they tried to paint it as hurting small businesses. That's the thing that gets me. Do you remember that quote?
I don't.
They actually have it in Engadget. Facebook has. Hold on a second. Let's see. Yeah. Facebook has positioned iOS 14.5's app tracking prompt as an attack on small businesses and has even suggested that companies might have to start charging for site access without previous levels of ad personalization. So that by Apple asking people, hey, do you want this app to track you? And people rightfully saying no, Facebook is like, you're hurting the small business because they can't make ad revenue. No.
Okay, well...
Get the out of here.
Well, first of all, like, when it comes to advertisements, like, advertising isn't cheap. A small business probably can't really afford, like, Facebook advertisements like that anyway.
They're not going to be able to.
Probably not. Or like, if they do, it would be for the very short term. So they really need to like stop lying about that.
And a lot of those small businesses are also going to often be positioned on other apps. Like, say for example, like when I hear small business, I'm thinking of like a restaurant. They're going to be on Uber Eats or something like that. They're not going to have their own little app / website where they
sell their food
for delivery. They'll usually have Uber Eats or DoorDash, which those have their own issues. That's for a completely different episode.
Yes.
But like, it's like, stop trying to sit there on a soapbox being like, we're hurting small. No, Facebook is just complaining because they're not going to have as many profits because people don't want their data tracked.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Facebook is just, I regard social media in general as a mistake.
Really?
I do not like social media. Like, I hate Facebook. I hate Reddit.
But you use it so much.
It's a double-edged sword. Exactly. It's like I hate Reddit because I keep having to look at it.
I mean, a lot of people hate Twitter, and like they still
Twitter
use
is awful too.
I actually like left Twitter for good.
Part of it is
I don't want to go back.
Part of it is because of that sort of addiction thing. It's like you hate these things because you're addicted to them. And it's like, I hate Twitter, but you keep going on Twitter, and Twitter keeps feeding you stuff that makes you angry, and you get addicted off of the chemicals in your brain that makes you angry. And it's like, you get addicted to being angry. It's like, did you really live today if you didn't get angry at something? It's like
a drug. It's a drug.
It's a really bad drug.
Whoa, man! I think you're tripping sack right now with a Reddit read.
Yeah. So anyway,
yeah.
Apple allowing people to not get tracked. That's good. And 4%, 4% of
well, not forcing you to get tracked at least.
Exactly.
I should say.
And 96% of people deciding not to get tracked. That is amazing.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it would not have been that high. I thought it would have been like maybe 54% are opting out.
That's a pretty massive statement. Yeah. Well, that's a massive statement.
And I have no hopes, but I truly hope other like smartphone companies and manufacturers.
So you do have hope.
Start to adopt a little bit. Like I hope they start to adopt a similar position as Apple. Like I'm not counting on Samsung doing it.
No, I'm not counting on Google doing that either, but not by any means.
So like but I am hoping that other ones like I almost said LG because LG opted out. Like I'm hoping Sony, for example.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm trying to think of alternatives.
Alternatives? Well, I guess OnePlus.
I suppose
could be an alternative there for sure. Let me try to think of other companies.
Do not say Huawei. Do not say Huawei. They're not going to be an alternative. They're absolutely not.
Yeah, right. Huawei is like, no.
They will cook the data for themselves. Exactly.
Yeah. But there have to be other companies as well. I hate that I can't just come up with them.
Of course.
Right off the top of my
head. There could always be new people that are entering the market, and boy, do we have a new company entering the ring.
Yeah, they're going to steamroll the competition here.
They're going to toast the competition. Woo! Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
From, let me see, TNW, the next web.com, we are finding out that fancy luxury toaster company Balmuda is going to be making an Android phone. A toaster manufacturer.
So how much bread is it going to cost?
So, okay, that's actually good. You get a second one, but that's being loud. There we go. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah, there.
Finally, I guess it took 49 episodes for me to get some recognition here.
Take your victory lap there. So, quoting from TNW.
2 seasons, guys.
Quoting from TNW. If you ever spent some time trying to find a really good toaster, you probably heard the name ABUNDA. The Japanese company's $329 bread heater has something of a cult-like following due to its fancy design that uses steam for an enhanced texture.
Ooh.
But according to Nikkei Asia, the company is getting ready to enter an altogether new product category, smartphones. Now, according to them, they don't just make high-end toasters. They also do work on other home appliances like fans, lanterns, air purifiers. But a smartphone is another beast entirely.
Yeah, how could they not? Though I am surprised that they didn't try with the TV first and then the smartphone.
It does make a bit sense to do that, but of course, and we're going to get to it in a moment as to why they mentioned this, smartphones are a very smaller, more portable device, and we're going to get to that in a moment because Balmuda CEO Gentaro.
Oh, you can toast your bread on the go. You can make your breakfast on the train.
This is not a toaster phone. It is a phone from a toaster manufacturer. We have to make that clear.
Damn it.
Yeah, no.
I don't want that anymore.
They promised, what they said, it's not going to be a stylish appliance, but they also promised to make proprietary apps and offer great everyday use handsets. So there are going to be proprietary apps exclusively for the Balmuda smartphone.
I bet they're going to be pre-installed. Like, you can't delete them either. You have to keep them there.
Hopefully Facebook is not one of them. They are
powered by Facebook.
They are partnering with, I'm going to try and pronounce it. There's two different ways we probably pronounce it. I'm going to say Kyocera.
What's the other one?
No, Kyocera. It could be Kyocera.
Oh.
But I'm imagining it's more Kyocera. Kyocera.
You might be right.
I imagine Kyocera. Like, Kyocera is going to be one manufacturing the phones.
Okay.
And that it will run on Android, Android OS, and will be supporting 5G connectivity.
5G connectivity.
An exclusive agreement with SoftBank, yes.
Okay. Does it have facial recognition, a fingerprint scanner?
They do not. They do not mention things like that. They do not mention how the phone is going to actually look. They don't mention the design. They don't show any, prototype images.
Not even like display information. Maybe OLED, higher refresh rate. Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
They also do not mention a price range either.
So we don't know how much bread it's going to cost.
No, we do not. It could be one slice. It could be a whole loaf. It could be a slice. It could be a whole loaf.
Oh man, that's a whole. I think that we should hang on. I think we should take this with a whole grain of salt. There we go. I need to say that.
Yeah.
Continue.
It could be, but they don't really mention that many details, which means that it could also be possible they're just trying to pumpernickel the stock price.
Oh man.
Yeah. But they could also not be lying. And in any case,
I love it.
Same thing though, and this is where the unfortunate part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It looks also like it may actually be a Japan exclusive product. It might not be showing up here in the West.
It probably should be,
because those smart, fancy toasters that they came up. It's not even really a smart toaster. These fancy toasters that they came out with apparently only reached the West within the last year or so, and they've been available in Japan for many years now. So the smartphone may become Japan exclusive, and maybe we see it here in the West way later down the road. But
maybe. Hopefully we get to see people like him, KBHG, get his hands on it. Just to see what it's like.
Yeah, but it looks like it probably is going to release specifically in Japan for a couple of years. Probably see how it works in the market over there and see if it's viable to even bring it here in the West. Because, of course, the West, it's very much a Samsung, Apple world with a couple of third parties like Google in there, but for the most part, it's really...
Google is a pretty strong competitor there, though I would say that they've been getting weaker over time.
Yeah.
Because, their innovations or their changes in smartphones just have been pretty underwhelming in comparison. Like, Apple has been taking leaps and bounds, and, I'm honestly kind of surprised to say that, every year or two, it feels like just using a totally different smartphone now when it comes to the iPhone, at least for the past couple of years, which is just, I gotta give it to them. A long time ago, no one could ever say that. Using an iPhone from the iPhone 1 to the iPhone, even the 3G or the 4S, even actually, you can go even further in. Hell, even the 5, the 5C, and the 5S, it just felt like the same experience for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would say that as of 2017 maybe is when they really started to make strides and changes with their smartphones and stuff when Samsung did too, but Samsung has been more stagnant, I would say. Ever since they went with, the smaller bezels approach, they've kind of just like stuck with that gimmick.
I also feel like Samsung has become increasingly locked into an ecosystem and increasingly more proprietary, but for no like
I mean, that's Apple in a nutshell.
I was going to say though, Apple being proprietary, it sucks, but it also makes sense because they have the hardware and the devices to really back it up.
And they've always been this way, too.
Samsung, I feel like they don't.
Yeah.
Samsung used to be an open source kind of thing because it was using just standard Android, and then they decided to lock themselves in for no reason because it's like, oh, you use this with your Galaxy Watch. Do they sell Galaxy Watches anymore?
They still do, I think.
But it's a very small thing compared to like
an
the
older
Apple.
one.
Like Apple, if you buy an iPhone and you're locked into that Apple ecosystem, you have very good connectivity with your Apple Watches, which they continuously make.
Yeah.
iPads, they continuously make.
Yeah.
Mac computers, of course, continuously making.
And the
Now you have
Galaxy Tab
AirTags.
tablets, they do continue to make. But like, I haven't seen any kind of like proper
Nobody
integration
cares
between the
about
two.
them. Do people care about the Galaxy tablets nowadays?
The Galaxy Tab
In 2021?
S7? Yes, like the Galaxy Tab S7. I'm waiting for the day.
I never see people talk about them. It's only ever the iPads.
You monster. Okay, sure.
Like,
But that's because we live in New York, in all fairness. And
like,
over here, everyone's
in my
like
little
super
tablet searching, I've never seen anybody recommend or talk about the Galaxy tablet.
Oh, no, like, for us,
either
it doesn't
the
make sense to
iPad
get
or the
that.
Surface Pro.
Yeah. Like, when it comes to us and our field of work, it doesn't make sense to get a Galaxy Tab S. Because the thing about those is that, sure, like, they're great for drawing and things like that, but the thing is, they don't really have that kind of app support. And they're still very good and powerful tablets. It's just that they don't have the app support.
What do you use the Galaxy tablets for then? Just streaming movies and playing a couple of games?
Well, Galaxy Tab would also feature an S Pen, which is actually included, and it is a pretty nice pen. It is very good for drawing, and I think that that they implemented a lot of great things with it, like multitasking, and you also get like shortcuts with the pen and stuff. Like it is designed to be used with the S Pen in mind, which I think is great. And the S Pen itself has like a very fine tip. So like sometimes I do find it a little bit nicer to draw with than an Apple Pencil for that reason. But the app support is what really kills its potential, and that's what Samsung is really lacking in there. Because even with something like Adobe Premiere Rush, which is like the closest thing that they've got on Android to like a proper video editor, as far as I'm aware, isn't supported across every Android tablet, and it's not. Like as far as I know, actually, it may not even be supported by the Galaxy Tab itself, which is just like so stupid.
That's the thing. Like Samsung is locking itself into its own ecosystem without much reason or justification to back it up. Apple's ecosystem locking is a very annoying thing, but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, now it does. I mean, like for a long time, we have also questioned, why are they doing this? Why are they locking themselves in? But they built an empire within themselves,
At
almost
least
like
there's
a
a
monopoly within
justification.
themselves.
It's like say, for example, looking at AirTags right now, they're introducing AirTags, which are no doubt locked into the Apple ecosystem, and it's like, oh, that sucks. But you also have Tile if you're into Android. So it's like there is a reason. Of course, Apple AirTags could be possibly even better than Tile. We have to see, you know, because we're approaching the release of it.
If you're working with iPhones and iPads and things like that, like Apple products,
It's like it sucks, but I get it.
yeah,
Galaxy and Samsung, it doesn't make that much sense.
yeah.
Now, and that makes me wonder then, because what's going to happen with these Balmuda phones, you know, they're saying they're running on Android. They mentioned proprietary apps, but something tells me that a good chunk of it is really just going to be open sourced to whatever Android has, in the same way that Google more or less is.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would, introduce, what kind of proprietary apps do you think they would actually bring in? Web browser, maybe?
A browser, they already have a browser. They already have an app store. But
Balmuda, we're talking about, Samsung. Balmuda.
Okay,
What do you
sure.
think Balmuda brings in?
For them, I think that it is going to be seamless integration with their toasters, to be completely honest.
You can look at the tracking to see, maybe it's like a camera inside the toaster and you get to see your bread in real time.
It acts as a security camera too, so like it's got a rear-facing and front-facing camera.
If you see a robber stick their hand in to pick up the toaster and run with it, you can like stop them.
Yeah, like you could like trigger like the steam to go way off or something remotely
Right.
and just like burn their hands or something. They go, I'll never take their toast again. And it goes in like a black and white, like for the advertisement. And they said, don't get your bread stolen anymore.
No bread nappers here.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is kind of hard to tell. First I want more details on the hardware actually before I'm willing to comment on the software. Because I have a feeling this is going to be a very mid-range phone, if anything. But like that's just speculation. We don't know anything about the hardware. We don't know anything about the software besides it being Android. Obviously, can't be an iPhone. So yeah, I'm pretty much going to end my take with that.
I suppose so. I mean, I'm very excited to see exactly what it is that they put out. Just to go from toasters to, of course, LG also does home appliances, but they exited the smartphone market because they felt like it was more worth it to just focus on that stuff.
Yeah.
Balmuda, going from those home appliances, specifically the toaster, seem to be most famous for their toaster. To then go into smartphones, it's very curious. Again, it might be Japan exclusive, but I still want to see exactly what it is they do. But only time will tell. And of course, we are also out of time for this week's episode.
Indeed. Now, to all of you patrons, thank you so much for supporting us. And also, do not forget that you've been entered to win the Stream Tech Mini. And if you yourself are interested in entering to win yourself one of these and more tech products on a monthly basis, then feel free to jump onto the Patreon too. Links to that down below, whether you're watching or listening.
Thank you, of course, for listening/watching to this podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, all of that social media will be at the bottom of this video over here.
And if you're listening, of course, those are going to be available in the description of whatever app you're using right now.
That's right. And of course, remember, if you aren't subscribed to the Patreon, do that again because we get uncensored bonus episodes. We record them basically back to back and we go off. We go kind of nuts on this stuff.
Ham, as they say.
Exactly.
Without cheese. But this has been Francisco.
And Chris.
That's been the cheese. Enjoy.
Good night. Travel well. Travel well.
Do it.